Mr. Masagos.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank members for the support and thoughtful feedback on the bill. The SFA will focus on food safety and food security. These are mutually reinforcing objectives. Food safety is a prerequisite for resilient food supply and key to developing a thriving agri-food industry. Allow me to outline SFA's priorities in these two areas and address some of the specific comments. I will start with food security. Mr. Ong Teng Koon referred to recent potential disruptions in our egg and seafood imports and asked how SFA can better handle such incidents without causing alarm. The answer is that SFA will ensure our food security by developing and enhancing our 3 national strategies to obtain food. We call these our 3 food baskets. First, SFA will build on the existing work by AVA to diversify import sources. AVA has already expanded our import sources from 140 countries in 2004 to around 180 countries today. We take for granted apples from Poland, bananas from Ecuador, and mandarin oranges from China in our supermarkets. These are in fact the fruits of a deliberate strategy to diversify our food sources. Imports will remain our largest food basket for the foreseeable future. SFA, in partnership with relevant government agencies like MFA and ESG, will continue to diversify our food sources as Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa, Mr. Melvin Yong, and Mr. Satyandi Supamat have suggested. This includes working with importers to organize overseas sourcing trips and business matching sessions, as well as increasing the number of farms across different countries which can export to Singapore. In fact, our officers were accrediting farms in Thailand over the Lunar New Year break, while many of us Singaporeans were taking a break and enjoying food with our families. I would like to express my appreciation to officers who have worked hard over the years to strengthen our food security and safeguard our national security. Our food importers are also a keynote in the supply chain, and we must ensure that they are prepared to withstand potential shocks from climate change and geopolitical developments. As highlighted by Mr. Mohammad Irshad, SFA will introduce requirements for importers of key food items to adopt plans to mitigate any supply disruptions. As Mr. Ong Teng Koon have highlighted, food security is fundamental to national security. In the long run, securing our food supply is also the primary way to mitigate price volatility and spikes. This is a focus of SFA, which will continue to contribute to whole-of-government efforts to provide affordable food accessible to all Singaporeans, as highlighted by Associate Professor Daniel Goh. Second, SFA will intensify efforts to grow an agri-food ecosystem in Singapore, as suggested by Mr. Mohammad Irshad and Mr. Melvin Yong, thereby reducing our dependence on imports. This requires close coordination between SFA and other government agencies in domains such as land planning, industrial development, and financing, and skills training. SFA will also partner our industry stakeholders across the food supply chain to catalyze industry transformation. Transforming the industry requires us to cultivate a generation of agri-specialists. AVA has been working with institutes of higher learning, IHLs, in this area. One such initiative is the Earn and Learn program, a work-study program through which students from Temasek Polytechnic and Republic Polytechnic work at local farms and apply the knowledge and practical skills learned at school. SFA will continue working with the industry and IHLs to enhance manpower development for the agricultural sector, as raised by Mr. Melvin Yong and create meaningful, value-added jobs for our future workforce. Given our lack of natural resources, such as land and water, the future of farming in Singapore has to be one that is technology and R&D driven, climate resilient and resource efficient with high productivity. Going forward, we expect to expand further into controlled environment agriculture in indoor vertical farming and deep-sea fish farming in our waters. We recognize the contributions by our existing farmers. They bring valuable experience, and we would like to continue working with them to improve Singapore's food security. We'll take a pragmatic approach by helping existing farms modernize. In addition to productivity, we will also prioritize the environmental sustainability of food production. As part of the Muir family, SFA will work closely with NEA and PUB to find synergies in food production, water, waste and energy. This will ensure that our local food supply will remain resilient in the face of wider trends such as resource scarcity and climate change. Together, we can become a world leader in agri-food solutions, just like how we have turned our constraint in water to strategic advantage. Our water story, which members including Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa and Ms. Anthea Ong had talked about, is well known internationally. SFA will work together across the government and with industry and other stakeholders, including fellow Singaporeans, to write the Singapore food story. Third, SFA will continue supporting our companies to expand and grow overseas. These overseas-based Singapore companies will be able to overcome land constraints and even manpower constraints and access new and bigger overseas markets. This allows them to bring down costs through economies of scale and reduce the price of exports to Singapore. Mr. Henry Craig has also rightly identified this as an area of tremendous economic opportunity for our local companies, especially if our companies develop expertise in highly sought-after farming technology, resource-efficient, high-yield, and climate-resilient. Barramundi Asia, which aspires to produce the fish equivalent of Kobe beef, has expanded to Brunei, where it's developing a 6,600-hectare fish farm to export an estimated 40,000 tons of fish back to Singapore. I hope to see more of our local farms succeeding in overseas markets. Our three food baskets are what I call supply-side strategies. However, the demand side of the equation is equally important. SFA will continue to prioritize public education and outreach to complement the three food baskets as mentioned by Mr. Mohammad Irshad. This includes supporting local produce as suggested by Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa and Mr. Melvin Yong, and promoting the consumption of substitutes such as liquid eggs and more sustainable foods such as plant-based proteins as suggested by Mr. Gan Tian Po and Mr. Mohammad Irshad. I would also like to assure Mr. Saktiandi Supahat that even as we allow new food to come in, SFA will take reference from global standards, such as those set by the Codex Alimentarius Commission in permitting food additives for use in Singapore. Ms. Anthea Ong and Mr. Melvin Yong raised an important initiative which AVA and NEA are already collaborating on, reducing food waste. In fact, food waste is one of NEA's priorities in the year towards zero waste. My ministry recognizes that government regulations may promote the reduction of food waste, and will look further into it with our partners, taking into consideration other factors such as food safety and business costs. I urge Ms. Ong and Mr. Yong and other members to continue supporting community efforts to redistribute food better so that there is no hunger even among our needy, and in the process, reduce food waste. I will now move on to outline three strategies which SFA will adopt to ensure the safety of food in Singapore. an area which many members have spoken about. First, the formation of SFA will integrate operations related to food safety, which currently reside across AVA, NEA, and HSA. These range from providing a single contact point for the public to provide feedback, as suggested by Ms. Anthea Ong, to combining contact tracing and industry engagement operations. This will allow SFA to manage more holistically across the entire farm-to-fork supply chain, to pinpoint and remedy critical points, and react more quickly to food safety incidents, as raised by Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa, Professor Fatima Latif, and Mr. Satyandi Supaat. These efforts over the years have strengthened coordination across government in response to food safety threats. I thank Mr. Henry Quek for recognizing efforts by the agencies to keep swine flu out of our food supply. AVA, NEA, and MOH work closely under the One Health framework and follow a protocol to respond to and address foodborne outbreaks. Information received by each agency, whether from individuals or doctors and laboratories, is tracked and analyzed centrally to ensure that any unusual increase in notifications linked to food establishments is investigated promptly. Second, having a single agency like the SFA will support consistent administration and enforcement of the regulatory framework for food establishments, balanced against supporting enterprise and job creation. As Engineer Dr. Lee Biwa, Mr. Mohammad Irshad, and Ms. Anthea Ong have suggested, we can harness technology and data to make our regulatory regime more effective and efficient. Let me give one example. Joyview, one of the largest end-to-end fruit companies in China, developed an app that tracks the product's 1,000-mile journey from a vine to the supermarket shelf. With a simple scan, shoppers can tell which field the food came from, who was in charge of its production, what tests it went through before entering the market, and even details about the soil and water tests from the farm. This allows consumers to check that the fruit has not been contaminated anywhere along the way. Similar ideas can be applied in Singapore. As suggested by Mr. Gan Tiampo and Mr. Satyandi Supaat, SFA will also raise the level of accountability of operators in food industry, which must take greater responsibility for the hygiene standard at their premises to ensure food safety. This will be complemented with robust enforcement, as suggested by Mr. Leon Pereira. In fact, over the last 5 years, NEA has conducted more than 600,000 unannounced inspections of food retail outlets. Where necessary, we will enhance regulatory oversight and penalties. As Mr. Mohammad Irshad has highlighted, our regulatory regime will need to evolve with changing business models, including online food sales and food delivery. In addition to the emphasis on food safety, SFA will, as part of its function, look into harmonizing licensing standards and combining existing licenses for food businesses. Our vision is for businesses across the supply chain to only have to interface with one agency. This will take time, and we will work closely with industry to put in place facilitative regulations. For example, we are looking to ways to streamline the licenses for premises carrying out both central kitchen and catering operations. As pointed out by Mr. Henry Quek, there is much potential to leverage the trusted food safety standards in Singapore to promote internalization efforts by the food industry. This is an area that SFA will continue to work with MTI and ESG on. Mr. Mohammad Irshad has suggested that SFA could tap on similar opportunities in the halal food market. MUIS will primarily focus on certification of halal food for consumption by Muslims in Singapore. SFA will support our food companies to look for opportunities in the region and in the Middle East. Mr. Ong Teng Koon and Professor Fatima Latif asked about the role of SFA with regard to nutrition. HPB will continue to promote the consumption of healthy food, and SFA will provide the relevant supports. Mr. Leon Pereira spoke about food labeling as a tool to help consumers make informed choices. AVA already imposes regulations to provide consumers with pertinent information such as ingredients and allergens. SFA will continue to work with partner agencies such as MOH and HPB on food labeling. Third, forming a single agency like SFA will enable deepening of food safety expertise in Singapore. The National Centre for Food Science, NCFS, which Professor Fatima alluded to, will be transferred to the SFA under the bill. The NCFS will bring together more than 100 food scientists from AVA, NEA, and HSA, and consolidate key competencies in food diagnostics and research on food safety. Consolidation will also eliminate the need for food samples to be tested in multiple laboratories across different agencies with different competencies. This streamlining of processes, as well as the sharing of facilities and technology, will allow for greater operational, testing, and cost efficiencies to be achieved. This further ensures that our food continues to be safe for consumption and standards are benchmarked internationally. The NCFS will also develop commercial laboratories to support the food safety testing needs of food business as production and exports increase. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude. SFA will draw on the lessons learned and results achieved by AVA, NEA, and HSA, and write a new chapter in the Singapore food story. By bringing together stakeholders from farm to fork, co-create solutions to ensure and secure a supply of safe food for our people. So with that, I beg to move.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Singapore Food Agency Bill.
Committee stage, what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that Parliament will immediately resolve itself in the committee on the bill.
The question is that Parliament will immediately resolve itself into a committee on the bill. As many as of that opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is that clauses 1 to 71 stand part of the bill. As many as are of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Bill to be reported. Minister for the Environment and Water Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to report that the bill has been considered in committee and agreed to without amendments.
Third reading, what day?
Now, sir, I beg to move that the bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the bill be now read a third time. As many as are of the opinion say aye. To the contrary, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Singapore Food Agency Bill.